Aloha. Making this video because I just wanted to put some things into perspectives and share sort of how I see the United States, North America, South America, the history of the melanated peoples in relation to the United States in particular, California in particular, but I'm going to focus mostly on just the United States as a whole and the origin of peoples. Just a rough overview. I'm not like a historian or anything. I'm just sharing how I see what I see in reference to the peoples and how the design of the storylines, the limitation storylines that are being presented to us through the mainstream media, through the History Channel, through our limited history books and historians that are selling all kinds of different versions of what's going on, from the ridiculousness of Trump wearing a hat saying "Make America Great Again," as if the America he's referring to is he has an understanding of what that greatness is or was. He's talking about the industrial age and all that shit. And if he's not talking about that, you go any further than that, then you start, well, even in that time frame, you're still talking about racism, segregation, and before that, you're talking about hardcore lynching and slavery. So what America greatness are you talking about? And this is the distraction, the great distraction that I wanted to kind of clear up in this quick little video, because that shit does not exist at all in my reality. In fact, what I'm getting ready to share with you right now is how I see and how I'm continually investigating what my understanding of reality is in reference to the peoples of this entire earth plane and the storyline as a whole. So whatever perspective you have on it is your own, but I'm just sharing what it is and how it is I see what is today known as the United States, which is actually just a small part of the peoples of the Americas. That's what it is. This is why they refer to the United States as America, because the peoples of America, they act as the representatives of the energy of America through the new age mainstream culture like Hollywood and politics and the fiat currency and all that other industrial age bullshit. They're basing their histories off of what they've created within the university system, the globe model, all that shit. So I wanted to kind of like put down a quick overview of how I see or how I've seen the mixtures, the harmonics of the peoples before the colonies took over, and share that with people, because it was a time not that long ago where I didn't even know that this stuff existed. So I know there's some people out there, or at least to this detail. So I know there's some people out there that also haven't seen this information that I know it would benefit in some kind of way, even if I just share just a little bit. Like I said, I'm not a historian or anything. I'm sharing information that I'm piecing together in little clips of information, only to tap the curiosity nodes of people, so individuals can research on their own, because that's the only way it's going to get locked in, is if people do it on their own. So I wanted to start off with so the the storyline. Yesterday I was listening to I might as well talk about it now because I don't want to do another video. I was listening to Louis Farrakhan, the honorable Louis Farrakhan, Minister Farrakhan, yesterday on the Breakfast Club. So those are two powerhouses that teamed up. It was an hour and a half. And for people, I know somebody commented yesterday talking about, you still watch TV? I can't believe you watch TV. You're not going to be able to do it. I'm like, look, energy is energy. Information is information. If you limit yourself to whatever kind of whatever because you feel something, that's up to you. That's your journey. By all means, do what you got to do to maintain your level of whatever. But I have to look at everything from every angle. This is information. These are individuals, people who are looking into this information, following individuals, following groups, following storylines that might not necessarily be for their benefit. And if we are not aware of how these storylines are being played out as a whole, then we might ourselves fall right into these same kind of scenarios. So that's my response to that. Now this is just my journey, how I present myself. And yes, I understand the backlash of the vibrations, the frequencies of the television and all this other stuff. But once you start to amplify your internal frequency, nothing can fuck with you. Nothing can fuck with you. So especially some little TV stuff. It's the way you amplify your internal antennas, so you can receive energies that are differently and not receive other energies in another space. You give your power away to something else, and that's on you. But I don't go there. I'm on another space. I'm not saying I'm better than anybody else or anything like that. I'm just saying there's ways you can interact with different versions of energy that like I used to be affected by people that I used to be affected by people's emotions and other things a lot more, like when I was a different version of my sensitivity right now, until I started to work on how I'm receiving energy and how I receive and send out energy as a whole. So different people are at different areas of their, interactive space of energy as a whole. And I see this information is just pure, it's just information. You can take it or leave it. So thank you for your concern with that. But I'm on I'm on some other stuff. So yeah, there's all these movements that are going on. There's this political space that's going on. There's the feminine movement. There's the black community movement. There's the layers within that, the conscious movement. There's a black conscious movement. Then there's the new age community. Then there's like the orchestrated new age movement. There's the mainstream movement. There's the new world agenda is all mixed into all that orchestrated version. The synthetic, you got the technological stuff, you got all this stuff that's all interwoven together. And the people who are just locked into social media and the distraction world are going to fall for whatever comes about. But I wanted to share what I was just talking about or listening to yesterday, as far as what's all involved in this awakening of information or consciousness, in a sense, to where we are discovering, like when Trump says "Make America Great Again," that makes people look into like, what the fuck is he talking about? Who is this guy, and what is he talking about? It also makes people look into like what's the importance of stuff. So like when I heard Farrakhan yesterday talking about all the stuff he was talking about, I was seeing what he wasn't talking about and what he was talking about. Like what was he not saying and what was he saying. So when he was talking about feminism and that whole space, when the young lady asked him about, you know, women's empowerment and, you know, dressing a certain way and all that stuff, and then he responded with, you know, the sacred space of the divine feminine, which was cool. I agreed. That was on point. Like once women see, there's too much focus on the physical reality as a whole. Once women start to amplify the internal space, the character, the essence of the divine feminine, and balance out all these frequencies, then the focus on the orchestrated feminine movement of, oh, I'm just gonna show my titties, I'm gonna show my ass, I'm gonna work out, I'm gonna do all this other stuff, and this is women's power empowerment. All that shit is a distraction, is a patriarchal design to get women to keep themselves in that lower chakra space and also keep them within a box. It's all these are boxes. All this stuff that I was listening to yesterday, it all exists in a box. All those movements exist in a box because the internal movement has no limitations. And when you get to that space collectively, then you can create an ongoing growth pattern within individuals and groups, which is what I wanted to get into, because it's good I went there, because that kind of just boxes up everything that I was listening to on the Breakfast Club yesterday with Farrakhan was that it all exists in a box. Like that whole conversation exists within the monetary system. It exists within a reactionary response to what has happened, kind of like the overcome, we shall overcome sort of mentality, when we've already existed as the empowered individuals that have already overcome and who are in fact vibrating out of space and who have vibrated at a frequency that is well beyond any kind of this bullshit that we are looking at today with Democrats and Republicans and all that shit. So how I was seeing that whole interview, which was an hour and a half, was yes, I understand that, but personally, I'm coming at it from a different perspective. I'm coming at it from, we need to understand our history. We need to understand the information that exists naturally, organically within our own realizations, our own blood, our own culture, our own history, before we start to make some kind of movement within a box. If we start to empower ourselves within a box of limitation, then we will only be subject to the movement that is dictated by that box of limitation, and whatever else kind of goodie baskets get thrown in that box by the so-called powers that be. So the whole time I'm thinking in my head, like, never talking about flat earth, never talking about ancient cultures, never talking about like pre-root stuff. This is another reason why I'm doing this video right now, is because this is kind of like my response to the History Channel teaming up with Ancient Aliens and that New Age Order stuff, going into transhumanism, to show some perspective on what how fast everything, the velocity of everything that is moving is to distract you from the essence of who and what you already were, and then mix everything into this this distraction gumbo of, you know, just eat this, this is new, this is you, this is, you know, what we have to deal with, this is who we are right now, when that's not true. There is a very definite timeline, a very definite storyline that exists here, and there are different versions of this storyline that exists depending on who you're talking to. And if you're talking to the education system and the university system, they're only going to tell you 1492, Christopher Columbus, slavery, and all that other bullshit in order to keep you in that state of mind that will make you shut the fuck up and not answer any questions, not ask any questions, because you are a fucking slave. You come from slavery. You were brought over here from slave ships. That's your story. Shut the fuck up. That is not what that is a foundation for destruction, self-destruction, self-hatred, and limitation. And everything else that's involved in that shit. That is not what this story is. There were melanated people all over this earth plane, understanding flat earth and all kinds of cosmology and all kinds of shit well before the History Channel, well before the university system, well before the globe model, and had thriving cultures building pyramids in Louisiana, pyramids and mounds all over the Americas, the true Americas, not the United States, the true Americas, predating all this other shit. And I wanted to share this, that the fact that this shit exists, because this is at the heart of the peoples. We have been distracted by a European, a colonial version of what our potential is, what our reality is, what our future could be, when they put out NASA and they put out CERN and all this shit and tell you, you know, you're engaging in your reality only. What is it? The reflection of your reality is only based upon, you know, like what we have done. It's like, no, what the fuck are you talking about? With the structures that were built well beyond well before all this shit. Who the fuck are you to tell me how I perceive consciousness and how I perceive experiencing my reality, just because you made some big ass computer or you made some big this and big that? What was existing before your cars were even invented? All this shit, all these patents, all this shit has been stolen on one layer. So what the hell you did? All this other stuff has been stolen too. It was gold. People were draped in gold in the Americas, all over the earth plane, before the colonial states took over and started spreading disease and spreading this fucked up version of what we see now as our reality, with voting and the Democrats and Republican and Bernie Sanders and all this shit. It's all a big fucking distraction. And I wanted to share for this moment, I'm going to go through these pictures real quick to show you how fucked up the distraction is, by seeing how beautiful, how rich the people were, and how the story already exists, that we were already harmonic. Yes, there was fighting here and there, but not to the space of this colonial destroying history and all this other stuff, and destroying peoples and diseasing people and telling them they are not this, they are not that. There's a difference between diseased war and destroying history to maintain your illusion of power, and just engaging in intercultural wars for whatever, for like land or little pieces of land here and there, or whatever they were fighting for. I don't know. It sure as hell wasn't as extreme as spreading disease, chemtrails, fluoridated water, genetically modified foods, and destroying people from the inside out, putting cancer everywhere, just like destroying all of this beautiful ecosystem that we exist on and as. When it's gone this far, something needs to be said. Something needs to be done. And the fact that Trump is out there wearing a fucking red hat that says, "Make America Great Again." All right, you want to make America great again? Let's talk about America. Because you only talking about the industrial age of the United States. You're not talking about America. So this is how I see the Americas. And going, and it's going to integrate my hometown in a sense. Well, not in a sense, but definitely integrate my hometown and share some information how this relates directly to the people that I relate to and the people that are in this whole space, because I have family members from Louisiana and from the Bay Area, which was all this Oakland or ancient Mexico and all this stuff before the Louisiana Purchase and all this other shit. Spanish coming over and putting all these pueblos everywhere, or yeah. So early cultures of America. I'm sure you already read this. This is where I'm coming from, at least from the Olmecs, 1200 to 400 BC, Mayan culture, and then the Aztecs. So the Olmecs were in the middle. They were right here. I don't know if you can see this. Oops. Right here in Mesoamerica, and off to the tip was where the Mayan culture went, and off into the center is where the Aztec culture went. So the Olmecs, in a sense, birthed the Mayan culture, and then the Aztecs, and then the Incas were further south, which was birthing Machu Picchu and Cusco and all that. Well, Cusco became more bigger when, you know, the Spanish came through and everything, but nevertheless, the ancient, where they can't even understand how this building was built in Machu Picchu on that mountain. They don't understand that. So Machu Picchu was down there with the Inca. The Aztec civilization was up here in Mexico in the 1200s. And all of they want to ball all this, tell you this generic ass shit like Apocalypto, and show you only this like sacrificial bullshit ass story of, you know, they were just savages. That's all that shit, all that Hollywood shit, that's all that shit is about. They won't tell you about the fact that there was ancient trade from the Maya, the Olmecs and the Maya. You can see down here, all the way up into the Muskegon mound builders up in Louisiana. Trading, sailing on boats, Cuba, trading with the Taino people, the Arawak speaking traders and immigrants all over Florida. It was a mixture right here. This is where the Seminoles and the Seminoles are mixture with the black races and Native Americans, and the Seminoles never being conquered before, never being taken out. That mixture is, they come down hard on that, saying that the mixture is because slavery. It's not. There were black races all over the world before Christopher Columbus did anything, and that whole idea, that whole storyline is all fucked up. But I don't want to focus on that. I want to focus on this, which is right now, which is the obvious trade spots of going back into 1200 BC, of the Olmecs into Louisiana, and this was America before. This was the Great America before the people that took over. This is another part of the story that I wanted to add, that is part of the California story, part of the American story as a whole. They call it mythology and all this other stuff, but there is definite information that leads to this being very true, especially when you go through what I'm about to show you in a second. So African Queen Califia, the mother of California. These are all the different artifacts and the proofs of you know, the melanated peoples, the deeply melanated individuals in mixture with the Native Americans. See, that's the whole thing that wants to get played right now. Right now they're playing black on white to fight this race war today. That's obvious to see. Back in the day when they were conquering and getting everybody sick and trying to steal land, they played brown on black to fight amongst each other. Just like in the slavery time frames, it's a psychological warfare. They played light skin against dark skin. It's like the light skins are better than the dark skins because they are mixed with, you know, white blood. They're still black though. That's the whole thing. They don't give a fuck about you. They just want you to fight amongst yourselves so you don't unify as a whole and understand where this actual war game is being played. It's in your psyche. So back in the day, today they're playing black on white. Back in the day they played black on light skin, and before that they played black on copper skin or black on Native Americans, and that whole separation there. And then you get caught up in that game. You start creating these teams, which is like, oh yeah, we're this team, we're these people. When it's all a big setup for you to fall into, because the outsider, the conqueror, the colonizer is the one who gets on top of the game once everybody's fighting amongst themselves. So California, named after 15th century African Queen Califia. By saying she was African means not necessarily birthplace, but by descent and facial features, being full-nosed and mouthed with a tendency to woolly, wiry hair. The various legends of Califia are found in the links below this webpage. On the page itself, we do not consider her historically, but if an African woman could have been queen in Baja California, myths say that the state was named for her. The more reasons evidence proves affirmative, the more likely someone like her could have existed. Cortez sought gold in Baja. Where was gold? Was there gold? Yes, the California gold rush proves it. And in Mexico and South America, prehistoric African figures are found in gold. To populate Baja, Africans would have to be able to either reach it from across the prehistoric African figures or prehistoric. Shit, this is weird the way it's set up. Prehistoric times. Could they? Yes. The yellow circled 4000 BC Negrito cranium from Tennessee, along with 2000 BC yellow circled Mississippi pipehead, shows cross-continental possibility. The Olmec goddess on the yellow square 1800 BC Mexico and green bordered Polynesian pictures show the possibility of African South Pacific boat movement to Baja. From an average of 7000 BC, Washington State shows yellow circled caucasocephalic African, Kennewick and Stickman being a prehistoric African population en route to Baja from northern Pacific. So basically, these are all the evidential proofs of boat sailing, people prior to Columbus sailing the seven seas and all that shit. Like this is already happened. All the university system, all that shit's built on top of. That's the Columbian age. That's all that fucking. Just as much as NASA is full of shit. The Columbian age shit is built on top of that. So if you're talking about NASA and fight NASA and all this other shit, there ain't no sense in fighting NASA if you still gonna fall within the university system as a whole and not know who the fuck you are and who the fuck the people are around you. If you're in Canada, you are a mixture of that land right there. It goes deep. If you are in the United States, that land, these people, it goes deep. If you're not talking about the black and brown peoples all over the world, you need to know who the fuck you are and where you come from. Like, we didn't come from boats on slave ships if you are in the United States. That's the fucking lie they want you to learn. That's why they keep putting Roots on the History Channel. That's why they keep fighting black against white and all this other shit. There's people that existed well before any of the stories that you hear on television, well before all the bullshit that we are told on a regular basis. This is the way the Bay Area was set up prior to all the fucking bullshit that's out here right now. This is the Ohlone land in the Bay Area. Oakland, San Francisco, Santa Clara, Alameda County, San Jose. This is all federally recognized Aboriginal peoples back in the day. The Aboriginal homeland of the Muwekma Ohlone tribes includes the following counties: San Francisco, San Mateo, all these counties were recognized. Shell mounds, these represented the actual places where people were hanging out, chilling. So this is just like the mounds of all the places that were I'm getting ready to show that were in Louisiana, the other mounds. But I wanted to show this is where people were for a very long time. The shell mound, the biggest shell mound in Emeryville was an entire city block long and like 2 stories high. That's a lot. And there was a burial mound. There's a fucking mall built on top of it now. Yeah, and they just came and chopped it all up, killed all the people, fucked it all over. So these are pictures of the Ohlone people. This is what I was saying before. It's not as clear cut as Native America and black slaves. There were black people here and everywhere well before all these History Channel ass storylines that you see talking about Christopher Columbus and Roots and all this other shit. This ain't got shit to do with all that. That is the distractive story. There's black Inuits. There's people up in Canada who are black well before the all over Asia, everywhere. This is the storyline. Not saying like better and all this other shit. I'm just talking about the fact that this shit exists. This is the fact that they want you to get separated from. The fact that melanated people existed all over the earth plane prior to all the bogus ass storylines that you hear coming out of the university system as a whole. All this shit about like we need to build our own economy and all this other stuff. Excuse me. Yes, I can see how you want to do that and all that other stuff because of what we've been presented with. But you are talking about slave owner, slave master money. If we start building on top of that broken foundation, you will get what you ask for. So I'm just saying, if we have this potential to do more, to understand more, and my main point is that once people figure out who and what the fuck we are as a whole and how these harmonics exist as a whole, what the real history is of the individuals on this planet, on this earth plane, what the real culture is, or our real potentiality is, and who we really were, people won't be falling for this bullshit of this limited version of our reality. We were understand that we were already connected. We were already one. We were already trading with each other. These are black people. It's not as clear cut as just Native Americans and like the Cherokee and the Hopi and the Navajo and all this other stuff. There was a mixture. These are Ohlone pictures. This is the Bay Area. You can't tell me these aren't black people at the same time. There was a mixture. It's not as just like, oh yeah, this and that. There was a very definite mixture going on, and this is not just one case. This is everywhere. Yes, there are definite groups who were which were different. Like there were people in the Lakota Sioux and then the Iroquois. There are very definite groups, but all in different areas had ancient deeply melanated black races who had already sailed within the Olmec communities, within North America, all over the place. The copper-colored, the copper-skinned people. All this shit all existed here. This is the true America. What they've separated into this so-called United States. And these, the Olmecs down in Mexico were doing all this early stuff, predating Aztec, predating Maya. It's just these beautiful people, beautiful creations, beautiful civilizations. 1500 BC, 3,500 years ago. The globe model's only been around for 500 years. Look at what this psychological program has done, destroying the entire Earth plane. Look at Hollywood. Look at how white Hollywood is. It is racism designed in there. It is white supremacy designed in there to get you to fight. It's to get you to separate, to split your mind in black and white. Racism, like to use these words and not know the origin of these words and the origin of the design of these psychological programs. It's to get you to be emotionally involved and engaged in a sub-layer of understanding your reality, your land, your people, your history, so you can play out the storyline that is being put in front of you. These are the mound building time frames starting 5000 BC to 1000 AD, were the first mounds in the southeast. This is in talking about Louisiana, Mississippi locations. People don't even know this shit exists. These mounds were built to the same specifications in the Poverty Point mounds, the same specifications of the Great Pyramids. This is predating all this shit. Poverty Point was constructed around 1500 BC along the western bank of the river Bayou Macon in northeastern Louisiana. The path of the sun bisects the semicircular design of Poverty Point from the open plaza to the east to the monumental eastern pyramid due west. This alignment linked the rhythms of ritual and communal life to the cosmos, expressing a dominant theme of the Amerindian worldview represented in art, architecture, and ritual performance of archaic times to the present. These are ancient pyramids built to the specifications of the stars, cosmology, astrology, predating all this shit. 1500 BC, this civilization here. You call them savages? 100 BC to 400 AD. Ohio. These are savages? No. That's that roots story shit. These are all in what we call the Americas. North America, Mississippi, Louisiana. If you want to read this, you can read it and pause it. This just goes through the Olmecs, and I started here because it was the origin of on my own personal journey. I wanted to start with the Olmecs. This was a few years ago because I wanted to understand where the Maya came from and where the Aztecs culture and what was beyond the whole bullshit stories that we hear on a regular basis from the university system as a whole. Because there's Aztec cosmology, there's Mayan cosmology, there's Olmec history, there's all these different versions of our reality that we're not being told about, that are just balled up into this savagery storyline, so you can follow the current storyline of what the science community is calling innovation and the human evolution theory program that is integrating transhumanism into this mix, so you can just fall into a deeper slave program and think that's what you are and who you are and where you came from. It's all bullshit. So the people all over the world, once we figure out who and what the hell we are, I'm talking to everybody, white people, or so-called white people, because white people don't exist. White is a frame of mind. White supremacy, white privilege, all that shit is a fucking frame of mind. I use these labels because people feel it when you say it. Like when I say white people, people feel it. When I say black people, people understand what I'm talking about. But I'm referencing just the energy of this so people can understand who and what the fuck they are, to figure it out, to understand, to create your own foundation, to create your own understanding of who you are. Where do you come from? Where are your roots? What is your history? Beyond what you have been told by a control grid, beyond what you have been told by a conditioned system, beyond what you have been programmed to artificially empower yourself with the ideas of white privilege and white supremacy, which goes to the opposite end of that with the program of so-called minorities. 9/10 of the entire planet is called a minority. Give me a fucking break. That is an entire psychological program. If you still consider yourself or refer to yourself as a minority, you need to stop that shit. It doesn't exist. If anything's a fucking conspiracy, that program, that psychological program is a conspiracy. We have to understand who we are. What is going on here? Create our own foundations on top of the foundations that exist naturally, organically. Not these foundations that are set up by a control grid that is trying to orchestrate movement and orchestrate this expansion, this consciousness awakening, in a sense, this realization, this reconnecting with your creative space, reconnecting with your allness. It's not as simple as just the flat earth and reconnecting with creator. We have to understand how the lower chakras work. We have to understand how the ancient civilizations were already tapped in to this physical reality as a whole, and see what was already here. And then we'll be able to see more clearly, stand on a foundation that is more solid, to understand who and what we are and where we're going to go and what we're going to do and how we can access what this so-called awakening is. So all this Oprah shit, all this this David Wilcock and Corey Good and New Age bullshit, all that shit exists outside of understanding your true essence, your true roots. And right now I'm speaking to the people in the so-called United States to understand what America really is. You want to make all this whole make America shit great? No, just understand who the fuck you are, first of all. And that will inherently make America great again. Once you understand who you are and what this place is and what we were prior to this control grid and this condition program, then it will be activated instantaneously. You will be empowered from a space of understanding that you've never felt before, and that's the real shit. Is really not trying to. We need to get together and create our own. Yeah, all that shit. Yeah, that's cool. But if you're building all that, you're building that on emotion. There's a difference between building on emotion and building on truth. We have to build on truth, and the emotion will come naturally. You don't have to sell what already exists. If you have to sell it, then something is missing there. So this is what I feel is missing, is the depths of understanding of who and what we are. And what's already been here. And these programs of the slave program, Roots, the conditioning, the university system, NASA, CERN, these bogus ass perspectives of what the Mandela effect is, totally negates the fact of consciousness and the organic internet as a whole, and doesn't go into our connections with our creator, our connections with the stars, our connections with this whole creative space as a whole. And we go in order. If we go in order of understanding, like, okay, this happened. Olmecs, the Spanish were here, came here and did all this. The French came over here. The Maya and the Aztec were here. They weren't like this. This wasn't about slave ships. This wasn't about this. It goes a lot deeper than the Queen. It goes a lot deeper than all this NASA shit and all this. So this is all included. But in order to uproot that conditioned state of mind, that programmed bullshit reality, which is being kicked into fifth gear and overdrive, we have to lock ourselves into what has already been. Understand it to the depths. And then the next steps will be presented naturally. That happened realistically. We'll be able to understand. Look at all this this is not savagery. This is real. This is beauty. This is anchored in greatness. Fucking Trump talking about build a wall, as if you can even, if you have any authority and the natural connection that people have, these artificial borderlines that have been stolen and killed with lies, like smallpox blankets and massacres, genocides, eugenics programs, you name it, it's all there. And they're trying to distract us from that dirty, dirty game. It's not a game. It is a beautiful, beautiful people, beautiful history, beautiful essence. And all of this energy, all of the energy that built these pyramids, all the energy that built this art, all the energy, all the genetic coding that is the foundation to Teotihuacan and the Olmecs and all the pyramids and the mountains that are built in Louisiana and Mississippi, all over the Americas, all over the place, it still exists in the genetic coding of the people today. This is why the conditioned programs of the university system and all this distractive bullshit is being amplified so much. Because they don't want people to activate this. So I'll leave it there. Pretty much sums up everything I wanted to share in this. Like I said, I'm not a historian and all this other stuff, but there is very different information. I don't have to be a historian to share what the fuck I've observed. Because this exists in more than just my family, my immediate family. This is everybody. We just forgot. So once we start remembering this, we won't. Our whole the horizons will shift dramatically. We will be able to imagine from deeper spaces and see a lot further than the economic system or the political game or NASA and all this other stuff. At the same time, including those programs into our process of elimination and understanding as a whole. So that's pretty much it. Thank you for joining me. Until next time, peace, love, and harmony.